right. Good morning.
Good morning.
I am just gonna go. Was that Anna? Did I just hear Anna's voice?
Yes.
Oh, you're here. I am about to be. I am just let me go ahead and get this up on my computer. I'm still mad at Patrick. I remembered. Let me get Zoom meetings and join. Launch. Join from browser. Got it. Still co-host. All right. What time is it? Do we have a okay to recall? Let's go home and let's delete. Let's see if I can find the USB. Got it. Gallery. All right. I was thinking, I was trying to channel my inner Lynn Geldmeyer. I was like, what can I do to pizzazz this? And I thought, oh, I'm too tired. So we're just doing it straight up, just like the instructions call for. But I was thinking about spoonful of sugar spoonful of sunshine. And I was like, what can I do to make that towel more amazing? I was like, I have so much trim because I used to, when I started sewing, it's because I was making dresses for Violet and I was always looking to embellish. I was like, how can I take this up a notch? Where can I add ribbon? Where can I add rickrack? And so that stuff did look pretty good. But I have since just focused on, my motto now is just get it done. Because I struggle with that too. So is it time yet? Are we getting started? It's 10:31. So let's go ahead and let's get started. I am going to get my 5x7 hoop. You got two different sizes for this. I think there was, I put them both on my USB. So let's look. And we want to make sure we pick the right one. The project we're going to be doing today is going to be this one. And it's so adorable. And I love that these, you can just go ahead and pull it. And then I do reusable gift bags for Christmas. That's what I make for my friends. That's what I used to make when I used to make handmade gifts. And these are just nice. You could do them in different sizes and give them away. Give them to the people who will appreciate them. Don't give them to the ones that are going to just put it in the trash, because you have people in your life like that. Not that there's anything wrong with them, but some people just don't realize the time, love, and effort that goes into handmade gifts. So, but some of them do, and those are the ones you want to give this kind of stuff to, right? All right, two different sizes, the 5x7 and the 6x10. You have been kitted for the 5x7. So let's go ahead and select that design, and I'm going to go ahead and set it. And I'm going to get rid of my background. This is from the demo from yesterday. So let me go ahead and just turn that off, and we're going to close. And you can bring that right back. So whatever image you did last, you can bring it back again. We are going to start off by fusing some, we're going to fuse some shape flex to the wrong side of that light minty colored fabric. So let's turn on your iron. I'm going to grab my wool mat. And let me go ahead and spin this around. And let's get out our kit. I'm not seeing any of you today. Everyone's got their camera off. Are we just like, is it that kind of day? A camera off kind of day? So this is what you should have in your kit. Somebody told me they were missing their leather, which really broke my heart. If you're ever missing anything, please give me the opportunity to make it right again, and we will get you what you need. So you just have this little itty bitty piece here, and there's some shape flex in it. That's gonna, shape flex is always gonna make it so you'll reduce your puckering, and it's also going to make it so it gives you an extra layer where you don't have as much shadowing, where you're, I look like I've been in a wind tunnel. All right, when you're doing shape flex, you wanna put it bumpy side to the wrong side of your fabric. This doesn't have a wrong side. So we're just gonna go ahead and put bumpy side to either side. Put it on there. I usually like to do it to my shape flex and not to my fabric, just in case there's something icky on my fabric. And then I will iron from both sides. But the thing that makes your shape flex adhere is going to be time and moisture. So if you've ever like put shape flex on, and you know, Kimberbell makes a fusible woven product that's the same thing as shape flex. You like how that just curled right up? My iron just needs like one more second. It's still blinking. And then we'll go ahead and adhere that down. If you have any questions, just unmute and ask your question. Don't let me leave you in the dust. But we're going to go ahead and adhere that first. I like keeping everyone together. Usually, this is how it works though. Usually 1/3 of you are right with me, 1/3 of you are behind me, and 1/3 of you are ahead of me. That's just kind of how it works. And there we go. That's our prep. Now let's go ahead and we are going to hoop up a 5x7. And we're going to hoop that up with the dissolve away is what it called for. Wash away stabilizer. Dissolve away is the same thing. If I'm using a 5x7, I like to use 12-inch stabilizer, and I cut these pieces 9 inches. Like if we're cutting a whole bunch of kits, we use the 12-inch and just cut 9, 9, 9, 9, and that's what you get kitted in there. Stuff you have in your kit is actually from it's a Baby Lock product, and I love it. So we're all set with this. Let's go ahead and go to the machine. I'm going to slide my hoop on. Who's stitching with me? Looks like we're watching. Anyone stitching with me today? I know some of you have already done it. So design is loaded. I already put that up. If you haven't done that yet, you want to choose Carolyn. Carolyn says she's always behind and Lynn's always ahead. Yeah, Lynn's probably already done. So here is, I always like to choose my hoop size. It's just a good habit. That way you know how much embroidery field you have here. This looks like I have just the biggest hoop, and I'm going to go up here to my settings. 10 5/8 by 16 is the biggest hoop, and I'm going to choose my 5x7. And that way you always know how much room you have, and we are snugged in there. So we're filling up the whole thing. We have our design. Let's just go ahead and touch embroidery. And the first thing it wants to do, I didn't even check my bobbin. Guess what? I have a green one in from yesterday. I did bring bobbins with me. I love the bobbin boats because you can just take what you need for your project and they don't come out. So bobbin boats are, I feel like you have to have a bobbin boat just for when you're like working on a project, especially if you're on a project where you're doing different bobbins, like you're using Vanish and then you're using a black bobbin for the text or something like that. It's nice to have. I did indeed just lose my cover. How did I do that? This is where you see a display of my superpower, which is losing things. Oh my goodness. It's on the table behind me in something. I don't know how that happened. Hey, if you have a Solaris, your machine came with the cover with the marks on it. If you have a Luminaire, which I'm on right now, we didn't swap it out. On your straight stitch needle plate is another cover, and that's the one that has the marks on it. And I would switch that over because I use the marks on my needle plate all the time. So make sure you get your straight stitch one, pop off your little bobbin cover because that one is going to have the marks on it. Just a fun fact.
Is that on there?
Did it finish transferring? I did the transfer. I don't know. Yeah, I think it should be done.
And you just
Okay.
want just the video part?
I want the video part. It's probably 2.5 minutes. Patrick is right now going to take the video that I did yesterday, that demo video, and he is going to, if anyone wants to see the demo and didn't get a chance, I just hope it wasn't too all over the place. I tried to keep it like clear and concise, but I get really excited. So if you see the lines here like this, that means color doesn't make a difference. So usually I'll go all the way to where color does make a difference. That's going to be the yellow. So that's the color I'm going to put in right now. And I brought with me cornflower, which is just kind of a nice medium yellow, and I'm going to put that in. If ever you see threads that you want, glide colors, I will order them for you, and if I order them for you, you get 15% off, and you can just send me a list of colors that you want. So for Kimberbell projects, I have been using like the glide colors if I have them. And I usually order, we don't stock glide because we carry Isocord in the store, but I usually order probably twice a month. So we're going to go ahead and stitch the front placement line. So go ahead and just hit start. You're going to do the placement line and you're going to grab the front fabric and you're going to put that right side up. So in your kit, that is going to be, you have 2 pieces of the floral. So I could, you could paint it. Like there's no reason why you couldn't like paint it. I guess you couldn't, you're not going to be able to see your thread underneath your bobbin thread, but I totally hear you. We're going to go ahead and we're going to place this fabric right side up. I'm going to give this a little shot of spray, not a lot of spray because it'll soak through this. When I spray, because I'm not a taper, I use Ganol KK100 and I use my spray tent. And my spray tent is just the dime spray tent. It looks like this. And you can just put a piece of cardboard there and change it out as you see fit. And I'm just going to give it a little shot of spray. Don't go crazy. I always tell ladies and gents, it is not going to be like your Aquanet in the 80s where she or he who had the biggest hair won. There we go. And you can look at this and see, because this is non-directional, but you can see my butterflies go different directions. I'm going to put it just like that. Next step. Stitch the front tack down line. Do not trim the fabric at this time. I'm just going to do, remember, color doesn't make a difference. I'm doing that same yellow. We're going to do the tack down. And then after this, we're going to start the applique. We don't have to change thread or anything. Now it's going to be the placement line. When you're doing Kimberbell, they usually do turquoise is placement, orange is tack down, turquoise placement, orange is tack down. So it's not that you're using these different colors for this part of your design. That just means applique, just placement and tack down line. Just go ahead and hit start. And it's going to do a placement line for your wing. And that piece of fabric that we put Shape Flex on, the one that's kind of like that light minty green, go ahead, and I'm not going to take the camera over there. Give it a shot of spray on the wrong side, and we're going to put this down. Or you can tape it down, or you can fold it down. Do whatever process you like. The reason that I do spray is because I think it's the easiest, and I'm kind of lazy. Just want to do whatever is going to be easy. So now this is going to be the tack down line. We're on this stitch, this step right here, stitch the inner wing tack down line. and we're going to trim the fabric close to the stitch line. I'm going to grab double curved scissors for that. If I want to get close to the stitch line, I go double curved. Here's, look, I put everything in my rope bowl. Sage made this for me. Isn't it cute? She just did the rope. I think she cut 1-inch strips and just wrapped it and just sewed it together. I was like, oh, Sage, I love that bowl. She was visiting me. And then when I got home that day, it was sitting in the middle of my table. She left it for me. I was like, oh, it's so cute. All right, we're gonna, and you know what? The other thing you could use is just a pair of snips. And I love the like curved snips. Or, I mean, of course, you can use anything you want. Sometimes the snips aren't strong enough. Oh, these are good. So, and I do kind of hold the fabric up at a 90-degree angle. And you just want to cut close to that stitch without cutting the stitch, if possible. Having the right tools make all the difference in the world. I want to say for my first, I mean, a long time, I'd say even like the first 6 years that I had my machine before I started working here, even up to like 8 years, because all I used were the blue handled scissors that came with my machine. I didn't even know there were other scissors. I didn't know they had until I started buying things for the store. Because even when we bought the store, all we carried was stabilizer, and we carried stabilizer and feet, like accessory feet and things like that. Once I started buying stuff, I was like, oh my God, there's different scissors that I can get. Like I didn't even know. All right. It says stitch the mesh wing trimming line. So we're going to go ahead and you're just going to do that in the yellow. So if you haven't done it now, go ahead and put in your yellow, whichever yellow you want to use. You are going to actually trim, once we do this, you're going to be trim the front fabric line. I'm sorry, front fabric inside the trimming line. Be careful not to cut the stabilizer. You need the stabilizer to stay there because that's what's going to support the stitches. So this is like this cut work. We're going to cut here. You want to carefully use something nice and sharp, and you're going to just kind of poke through. I'm just going to snip it. And make sure you're not going through the stabilizer too. Just take a little peek under there. Make sure it is just the fabric. And you are going to trim inside. Be careful not to cut the stabilizer. Trim the fabric inside the trimming line. So we're going to go in here and just cut this away. And peek back. You can see my stabilizer is still back there. Take your time. Be careful. What happens if you cut that stabilizer? You could grab another piece of Dissolve Away. Okay, so it should look like that. I know that seems scary, but that's what we're doing. It says change the bobbin thread to match the top thread. So you need a yellow bobbin. So this is the time where these things make a difference. If you don't have a yellow bobbin, I want you to wind one right now. And I have one right here. I'll give you a minute. Just wind a matching yellow. It doesn't have to be the same exact shade of yellow too. Like when I'm doing freestanding lace, I just pick, if it's green, I pick like something kind of green and similar, but you need a matching bobbin. Change the bobbin thread to match the top thread and stitch the mesh wing fill. So I'm going to go ahead and take this out and I'm going to put a yellow bobbin in. And if you don't have one, just go ahead and wind it right now. We're gonna slide this back on. And you're gonna stitch the mesh wing satin outline. This is step number 7. I just want to make sure I'm on the right step because this says 6 here. Oh, no, that's right. So this is how you can check. We're step number 13, but this right here tells you step number 6 in your embroidery, and I'm on step number 6 of 18. So sometimes you just want to, like, if you ever want to just confirm and you're just not positive. So let's go ahead and we're going to let it stitch. How are we doing? Are we okay? Thank you, Miss Anna. Are you with me? Wanda, are you stitching? And how about you, Miss Pam? I know Lila's watching. Donna, are you watching? You look like you're watching. Yeah? You can give me a thumbs up. You're muted. I have a second page of people. Let's see who's there, what they're up to. How about Wanda? Wanda, are you stitching? Are you watching? And you could show up and just stitch something else too. Look how cute that is. So it's going to look like mesh. And if you're just joining, I'll send you the video of this, and you also have the pre-recorded video. Hi, Miss Parsons. How are you? That's Momo.
Doing good. Thank you.
Are you stitching with us today or just watching?
Just watching.
All right. You can watch away. You can work on something. We'll just be background noise for you. After you do this, you're going to be stitching out the mesh. I want to say wesh, right? Mash it up. The mesh wing satin outline and detail. So it's just going to kind of go around here. So just go ahead, as long as you have your yellow, unless you want to do a different color, just go ahead and hit start. And we're 4 minutes into our stitch out. This is going to be this is when I love the progress bar. Like I'll look at the progress bar here and I'll go, oh, look at that. I have all this time. This is where I'm going to run upstairs and go get a snack, and where my machine's going to be unattended and something bad is going to happen because I step away. You know how it always happens like that. And then you're going to want to color. You're going to change, after we do this, we're going to change the bobbin thread back to a neutral color. I'm just going to put my white bobbin back in, and we're going to stitch the outer wing placement. And that's where the leather's going to go. And you're going to use that same color to do the tack down. And then, so pick something that's going to kind of match your leather. I'm using Sprout. So this is my color. The glide color is Sprout. If your kit, I did have one person say they didn't have their leather in it. If you didn't get your leather, let me know and I will send it to you. I'm always horrified when that happens, but every once in a while. Hi. Can you lay down? Look how cute that is. doing the little like lines and mesh. You're also going to need your topper. So you should have a piece of topper in your kit. And this is the wash away topper. So grab that. You're going to want to use that too. Now it's going to do the outline. Poppy and Momo are both here right now. And for Momo, Poppy will literally bark in his face and take whatever he has. And he's much bigger than her, but he just lets her. And then he'll cry. Then he'll look at me and cry and say, Mommy, get it for me. And I'm like, you gotta get it yourself. Violet will take it from Poppy and give it to him. So we are going to finish this. I don't know if it was in your supply list, but I am going to finish this on the sewing machine. I don't know if you have a sewing machine that you can set up too, but we're just going to do the casing for the back on the sewing machine. They don't have you do that in the instructions, but it always looks so much better. You could use your directional sewing because this thing gets in the way. It'll look so much better if you add that in. And this is the back side. Here's the front side. Casing, part of the design. Here's the back side. No casing, but we're going to add that. The other thing is I wanted to make your kit so beautiful, so I put a safety pin in there. And then when we went to put the ribbon in, the safety pin was too big. So just make sure your safety pin, I mean, look at that. It looks like it should fit, right? Just make sure you have a safety pin that's going to fit. Maybe it does fit. Maybe the one we put in there is going to fit. We tried it and it didn't fit. Okay. Next step. We are on step number 8 in your embroidery instructions. Change the bobbin thread back to a neutral color and stitch the outer wing placement line. So let's go ahead, pop this out and change this out. We are going to put our white back in. Here we go. And I'm going to change my color out to this color, and this color is called Sprout. Oh, you know, I have other shoes I can give poor little Momo. Okay, go ahead and do, this is going to be the outer wing placement. And then we're going to cover the design with wash away topping to prevent cutting the satin stitch while trimming the leather. So I am going to tape that down. So you don't spray topping down. So I brought my tape with me. I like to use this. It says transport. So I'm going to grab my topper. You're going to cover, really we're going to cover that whole area that the leather is going to go. Okay. This, we'll pull it back, make sure you're covering the entire placement line. I thought it was interesting because I was looking at the directions because I still have to stitch up my towel for Spoonful of Sunshine, and they had you put the topper underneath something as well. So I guess, you rinse it away, but I always think of top as on top. So I'm just going to go ahead and tape that down. Now it says, so we just did that. We're going to place the outer wing leather right side up over the wash away topping. So now go ahead and grab your leather. For me, I'm like, I could save some of this. They give you a big piece. I don't like to put it right in the center. And this is going to be trim the leather close to the stitch line. So I can see my stitch line here. I'm just going to put it kind of next to that stitch line. Make sure that you're covering it top and bottom. And we're just going to go ahead and scoot it over. Before you stitch it down, I want you to check. I want you to kind of roll this back and just make sure that you're covering the placement line. I can see mine here and I have about 1/4 of an inch. And I'm going to roll it back here and just make sure I'm covering it on the top. I could scoot it up the tiniest bit. And I'm going to go ahead and do that. But make sure you're looking and that it's covering the entire thing. I'm going to tape this down. Whoop, sorry. I don't want this to budge. So I'm going to go ahead and give this a little tape. Okay. But check that. Like right here, do you see? I know it's hard to see because it's under the topper, but that's my stitch line right there. Just make sure you're covering it. And let's go ahead and stitch it down. I'm going to slide my hoop back on. This should stay in place. I'm going to hold it too, just to make sure nothing budges. So this is the outer wing tack down. This is step 18 in your steps and then nine in your embroidery. And after it does this, we're going to trim close to the stitch line. And I think if you lay it down right, you could probably get two butterflies out of this. If you kind of flipped it over, I think you could fit a big wing up here and another small wing down here, or the big wing down here. And I could have scooted it over even further, like further this way. But you don't have a lot of room top to bottom. I could have twisted it diagonally. But just make sure you do the little peek under, that it's going to cover that whole placement line. All right, I'm going to grab my double curves for this. And I'm grabbing I have 2 pairs of double curved. I have my 4.5s, and you want that curve. Top curve goes over the edge. Second curve, because it's curved, lets you get really close and away from the fabric and really close to the stitch. Better than if you have straight scissors. So, and I have these all back in stock. So these are going to be the 6-inch. And sometimes I use those. Depends on what we're doing. Okay, I'm going to trim close to the stitch line. Since I'm doing so much turning, a lot of times I leave the machine just on, or the hoop on the machine, but this is a lot of turning. So I'm going to go ahead and this doesn't have I'm going to look at this before I really start cutting. Where's my sample? So for me, if it doesn't have a satin stitch, I like to leave 1/8 of an inch. So I'm going to do this more with 1/8 of an inch. I like that little outer border. The times that I will trim right to the stitch is if there's going to be a satin stitch outline. So I did start cutting this a little bit, but I'm going to go like a little bit further away. And you can see Michelle went further away too. Wait, further away. I'm going to use cut as desired. For me, I would cut as desired. Cut as desired. I'm going to go curve straight. If you use curved, you get like little smiley face cuts, and your curve straight will really let you go and do straight lines or straight cuts where you want them. So I'm going to go 1/8 of an inch. Sorry. I was just looking at that and I didn't see a satin stitch. Can you get him something, Patrick? There's more. Yeah, but try and give it to him anyways. So true. They only want what the other one has. I'm using my straight cut. Let's use straight cuts. I'm trying to do this where I can save as much as possible. So Wanda's stitching with me. Is it me and Wanda? How about Ann? Are you stitching?
I'm so delightful because I'm so behind.
I'm so behind. I am so behind. I need to be working on So Delightful too. I think I'm done with, whoops, sorry about that. Get this down. I think I'm done with my embroidery for that. And I just need to do the borders. This is what happens when I don't just finish it. I kind of lose my place. And I've seen people do all of the projects because there's 8 total projects. And I think that includes the quilt, but they're so adorable. I want to do them all. So make sure you round out that edge so it's not like, it doesn't look all pointed. These are like one of my have to have pair of scissors. And I didn't even know it. I had these scissors for years before I used them. I would just kind of suffer through the other ones. And then one day I couldn't find them. So I grabbed these and I was like, oh my goodness, why have I not been using these? I mean, do you really need, I don't know if you really need the topper, right? They said put on the topper so you don't cut through the mesh. I guess better safe than sorry. For me, anytime I feel I'm cutting and it feels like thicker than it should feel, I stop. I go, oh no, because I lose. Sometimes I have stuff underneath my stuff. All right. Look how gorgeous that looks. Isn't that beautiful? And you get those great cuts when you're using that straight edge, but you still want the one curve to go over the edge of the hoop. So those aren't on your list. Make sure you put those on your list. All right. I'm gonna go ahead and, well, let me read my directions. We just did this, trim the leather close to the stitch line. I trimmed as desired, about 1/8 of an inch away. Stitch the inner wing detail. So you could use any color to do that. I brought this one with me. I don't have a glide color like this, but I love this. This is rhinestone. And I'm gonna do this. So let me go ahead and put that in. And then after we do this, we're going to tear away the excess topping. Okay, go ahead and hit start. You can confirm on your screen what you're stitching. It should be those little, that detail, which I almost panicked because I thought it was supposed to go in the, on the leather, but this is where it's supposed to go. And for your body fill, you can use black or you can use a dark, dark gray. I only brought black with me, but it might look good with the, the color that Kimberbell uses a lot is called shadow. And that's that like charcoal gray. Oh, it looks cute. We're going to get ready to tear away that topping. So have a good pair of tweezers. My favorite, or one of my favorites, are my Femori Precision tips, which are these. And that like allows you to really get close. So you're going to rip away everything you can. And I usually pull in towards my project. Actually. Keep your fingers close. Everything you can't get, grab your tweezers and just pull it away. We are going to rinse this away, but this step it's like Elmer's glue. So you want to pull off as much as you can. And you never want to rinse this in your sink because it will clog your sink. How do I know that? Well, you can come here to the store. You're going to wash your hands and you're going to see your sink doesn't drain well. I didn't even think about it. I was just like, all right, let's rinse our stuff. We'd all go in the bathroom, rinse our stuff. And I wasn't even thinking that this stuff is gunky, but it is. All right. Oh my God, it looks so cute. I love this fabric. I think this is my favorite in the line, in the vintage Flora line. Okay. Stitch the body fill. I only brought black with me. So I'm thinking maybe it's navy. I have a charcoal gray here. I'm going to use this. But if I was at home, I would use shadow. I didn't bring that with me today. So stitch the body fill. I think black's just too dark for me. This is exquisite. when we like sell machines, a lot of times, because they have such just a really nice set of thread. They do like their 60 most popular colors, and their price point's really good, and the thread is really nice. Wanda's using gray for the body. Yeah, I think black's just too dark. So I'm using this dark gray. This is the body fill, and I'll do the little antenna too. And then we're gonna stitch the drawstring opening. You're gonna need white, so get your white thread ready. All right, let's change that out. And now it wants you to stitch the drawstring openings, and it's recommending white. So I'm going to put white in. Put this back. Okay, and it says stitch the drawstring opening. So you're just going to go ahead, and it's going to do the little like buttonhole, little hole that the drawstring will go through. And it's going to do one on the left and one on the right. You need a seam ripper to open that up. So grab a seam ripper. This one has been like my favorite. And again, this is something I've had for a couple of years and I never used it. And then I was ripping something out, and you know how you get threads and it hurts your fingertips to kind of pull it, or you can't grab it enough. These tweezers are nice and sharp. So now I can just pull everything away. And I just love that they're connected. I think that's the whole point. Cause you know me, I put things down and can't find them. So I love that these two are like together. So I'm going to use that next. Okay, using a seam ripper, carefully cut open the center of each drawstring opening. Optional, put a drop of fray preventive product on the cuts to prevent fraying. You can just open these up. If you cut through the stabilizer, that's totally fine. You just don't want to have to, you don't want to slice through everything. So, and I think actually go ahead and cut through the stabilizer too. So cut through. And be careful, don't go through the ends. If you feel like you will go through the end, you can poke it in here, run it to the middle, and then go do it from the other side. So right there, run it up. And if you're worried about running it right through, then just go to the other side, poke it here, and run to the middle. And that way, you know you're not going to go through. So just go halfway. And to the middle. And cut through both layers, because we're not gonna get rid of the dissolve away until after we put the drawstring in. So you need it to go through both the fabric and the stabilizer. Okay, next, we've just finished this step 24. Now we're gonna do this step. It says place one lining fabric right side down with one short edge, approximately 1/2 inch above the top edge of the front tack down line. So you can kind of fold it back and make sure you're about 1/2 inch above. And stitch, line stitched in direction step 6, completely cover the project. So we're just grab one of your two pieces. This is your lining. Isn't this so nice? The machine, the pattern does everything. You're gonna cover the outline stitch, and you just want to make sure you can just lay it down. It's going to cover the whole thing. Lay it down, you want to be at least 1/2 inch above this. For me, it's yellow. That placement stitch line, 1/2 inch above that. I'm just going to lay it down. And it says to tape it down. All right, I'm going to tape. Yeah, I was just about the words. I'm not going to tape. We're just about to come out of my mouth, but let's do it as per the instructions. So this is transport tape. We sell it at the store. It's just like medical tape. And it's nice because it's really easy to rip and it's really sticky. So you can just reuse it. If you look at my my table at home, I have transport tape. It's like stuck to the edges on the front of my table. Okay, tape down. Step number 26 in our instructions. Here we go. Stitch the seam stitch line. Color doesn't make a difference. I have white in there. I'm just going to leave it. I'm just going to go ahead and hit start. Make sure nothing's in its way. So we're going to stitch the seam stitch line, and then step 27, we're going to stitch the pouch cut line with a visible thread. Okay. So any color other than this color, so you can see it. So you can just leave the white in. You're going to be able to see that, no problem. So go ahead and stitch this. This is stitched step 27. All right, now it says remove the hoop from the machine, cut all layers of the fabric and stabilizer directly on the cut line shown in black. So we're cutting what's in black. Extending 1/2 inch on each end shown in yellow. Do not cut the seam line. So see that? Don't cut that. We're just going to cut up there in black. All right, let's take it. I'm going to do it on, let me grab my rotary cutter. I'm not going to do it with scissors. I'm going to do it on my mat. Let's look at it and make sure we're doing the right thing. There we go. So if you look at the instructions, we are going to cut what's in black right here, and that's going to be the top line, and you're leaving 1/2 inch on either side. So you're just going to cut from here to here, just the stitch. So go ahead and cut that. I'm going to use my rotary cutter. Just be steady. And then I can use my scissors for the very ends. Actually, I think that's pretty good. Because you need to go through all layers. I'm going to go right to there. Do not cut the seam stitch line. That's the bottom one. You should only be cutting the top. There we go. Okay, lift the lining fabric. Lift the lining fabric up and tuck it through the slit cut in the fabric and stabilizer. So we're going to take this. You have to untape it down at the bottom. You're going to put it right through the hole. Wait a minute. Mine doesn't fit, right? Slit. Lift the lining fabric up and tuck it through the slit cut in the fabric and stabilizer. I need to cut all the way to the, to just make sure it goes through. Let me make sure, because we need to fit that through. Lift the fabric, remove 1/2 inch. Remove the fabric, cut all layers of the fabric and stabilizer directly on the cut line shown in black, extending 1/2 inch on each side. I'm going to extend that. We got to cut it all the way on the top because I need to be able to fit that. Extending it, extending 1/2 inch on each end. Okay. 1/2 inch. I really have to go to this part with my fabric. That's 1/2 inch, but it still doesn't go all the way through. I'm just going to go ahead and cut that one. Now let's put it through. And then if it says, and tuck it through the slit in the fabric and the stabilizer, turn the hoop to the back, pulling the lining fabric down with the right side up. Press the seam well, so turn on your iron. Press the seam while smoothing the lining fabric and tape the sides and corners in place. So we're going to just pull that down. Let me grab this. And those edges are even. So we're going to just tuck this all the way down. And those edges should be even. All the way down here. And we're going to go ahead and give that a press. But that should be nice and even. I'm just going to give it a little finger press too. And we're going to just take this down here and we're going to tape it down. And we're going to give this a little press. Okay. Where's my tape? Be sure that the lining fabric is not showing on the front of the hoop. When pressing fabric, oh, you know what I don't have with me? My clapper. Lynn sent me some really fantastic ones that fit in the hoop, but mine's at home. Be sure the lining fabric is not showing in the front of the hoop. When pressing fabric in the hoop, use a mini iron or finger press well along the seam line. If you are using an iron, press on an ironing board. Do not use steam or water. Don't use steam or water because we have dissolve away in here. And guess what? That dissolve away it'll like crinkle up. So make sure you are not using any steam or water. You could just finger press, and that way you don't have to worry about it, but it's going to just look better if we go ahead and press it with the iron. I'm using my, I want to make sure there's no steam coming out of there. And I'm using my, my Panasonic. The other thing we need to watch out for, you know what? You got to watch out for your leather because it will scar. If you put your iron to that, it's definitely going to scar. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to put a little piece of fabric on top of it just to make sure nothing is going to touch. We're going to put that, and I'm going to put that, and I am going to give this a little press. And I am going to also make sure there's no tape there too. But I do want to, I'm going to press that edge because it's just going to make it nice and crisp. And I am doing it so that I'm barely touching the fabric below, but I just want to get that nice and flat. You don't want to see that fabric. Okay. I didn't push down too hard on this. So you don't want to see the lining fabric. It should just be folded over. And now I'm going to tape it. All right. Let's take this back. We should be through all those steps. How is everyone? We all okay? Let me tighten up that arm. Okay. All right. Here we go. So we just did this step right here. Everything is taped to the back. Return the hoop to the machine and stitch the lining tack down. So we're going to put this back on. Just take another quick quick peek at the back, make sure everything is laying flat. We're gonna put this back on. And now it's gonna tack that down. As far as color, it says color doesn't make a difference. So I'm just gonna leave the color I have on. And make sure your lever's down. Take a peek at your screen. Make sure you have the right thing there. This is gonna stitch the lining, tack down line. And then we're gonna stitch the drawstring casing line. Go ahead and just hit start again. Color doesn't make a difference. Oh yeah, it does. White. White is what they're recommending. If you want to see the casing, you could do a different color. This is where your ribbon is going to go in. There's the top part of the casing. Now it's going to do the bottom part of the casing. And this part I don't even need. I can just cut that very top part off. That is not even going to be part of it. So if that's confusing, let's get rid of that. That whole thing is just gone. You don't need that. Let me get rid of it. There we go. Okay. Now we're going to do the back part. So you're going to grab your back piece of fabric. Here it is. And this is going to go right side down. You want to cover this entire hole right here so nothing gets kind of stuck in there. It says, place the back fabric right side down, covering the entire project. Be sure that the cut and the stabilizer is completely covered. So go ahead and lay that down. And you can go ahead and tape that in place. I have all that tape from before, but let me grab some. I'm just going to tape it down. And then it says stitch the back fabric tack down line. Thread color doesn't make a difference. I'll just put one piece up here and one piece down here, and we should be good. So I'm going to go ahead and do the tack down of this. Then we're going to remove the hoop from the machine. How are you doing? I don't want this to be confusing. We're on the front part. It's tacking down the back of the fabric. If you've never done one of these, just trust it's gonna work out. We're in step number 35. We're gonna flip this to the back. So you're gonna remove the hoop from the machine, turn the hoop to the back, and place one lining fabric right side down. Our fabric is doesn't have a right or a wrong side. So we're just gonna flip it to the back of the machine like this. We're gonna take this fabric, we're gonna place it, turn the hoop to the back, place the lining fabric right side down, covering the entire project, and tape the corners in place. Be sure that the cut and the stabilizer right up here is completely covered. So you wanna cover that. Mine's completely covered. I'm going to give this a little press. I have a little crease there. My iron's still on. Don't press it with steam. Don't, this dissolve away. If you press it with steam, it'll just like crinkle right up. It'll ruin your project. Make sure you're covering your stitch lines and that top part. They just want you to tape it right in the corners. Oh, look it. I have a piece here. I'll just use that. Oh, I have a piece here too. The stuff is sticky. You can just use it over and over. And I don't like to waste, so that's how I roll. Okay, we're taped. Stitch that we're going to put this back on the machine. I have a piece of sticky tape here. The worst is when you turn it to the back right side and you go, oh no, one of your corners turned under. And this is the last step, step 18 of our stitch out right here. Stitch the final outline This will leave an opening for turning and 2 openings for the drawstring. So it's just going to stitch right where you see the black. See, this is your opening for turning, and then those are your openings for the drawstring. Go ahead and hit start. I don't know if any of you did Kimberbell digital dealer last year, but the project was the Santa stitch sacks, and those were so cute. And then you can do this. You could do this with a 6x10 size. So there's the 6x10 size, and depending on your machine, you could just blow it up. So you can make a big old pouch. You just have to be mindful of your cut sizes for your fabric. I'm gonna get a little ruler to trim. So Michelle and I trade off on projects. And so she did this project, and I'm gonna do next month. I'll do next month too. But she did the prep video, and then we realized that she was gonna be on her cruise for this. I was like, oh, it's fine, I'll just do it. All right, that is the end of our embroidery. You did it. Yay. Come on over here. We're gonna do some trimming. I know, wouldn't an A1 cruise be so much fun? We should plan it. Okay, I'm gonna pop it out. This is point of no return. That's why I like to make sure. I can't remember, there was some project that I did, and I popped it out of the hoop. And then I went, oh, I didn't do my quilting stitch. It was like on one of the more recent projects. So let me go ahead and do this, and 1/4 inch. So we're going to trim 1/4 inch all the way around. When it's something like this, I'll use my rotary cutter, and you can see your stitch line right there. We could trim it from that side, but I'm just going to leave it on this side. I get scared. Sometimes there's a line inside a line, and I just don't want to miss it. So I know you can't see it, but I'm putting my 1/4 inch on that stitch line, and I'm just going to go hit this off. My kids today, we weren't sure what to do because one of my Violet's friends, her dad is a policeman, and he reached out to let us know that they called it a credible threat in Washoe County School District. That's where we live. And they didn't know what school. They wouldn't tell us what the threat was. So we were like, do we send Violet to school? Kind Violet, do we send them to school or do we not? Violet really wanted to go because there was some class that she didn't want to miss. So I like to cut into my corners. When I cut my corners, instead of just cutting this way, I'll do 2 cuts, and I'll do one this way and then one the other way. I call this corner greedy. Don't get corner greedy because you don't want to accidentally snip that stitch. So that's close enough, just like that. So I'm going to go ahead and cut all my corners. Violet, we initially were like, well, because the policeman's daughter didn't go to school, and we're like, well, she's not going to school, we shouldn't send our kids to school. And then Violet said to us, because they did have like one of these this happened before, and she goes, it's going to be safer than ever because then there's like some cops that'll be at school during the day. And so we ended up sending her, but you know, it always makes me uneasy. It's just very sad that this is the state.
Very sad. There was
Isn't that
there was threats all over the state. And
Today?
then, yes, and
I didn't know that.
so, my daughter was debating, so they
Same
decided,
thing.
the principal at our high school said it probably was just, what's been going on. And when I dropped my grandson off,
Yeah.
almost all teachers were out watching. There was like, it was weird.
Wow.
And they were all wearing orange safety vests.
Wow.
Yeah.
Violet got to school and she called us and she said most of the kids were there. So, trim across the corner seam allowance, being careful not to cut through the stitch. Trim again at a slight angle. That's what we did. Corner up the seam allowance about 1 inch on each side to reduce the bulk. Okay, now we're going to turn your project. You're going to have 2 turns. Turn the project through the opening in the line to expose the inside of the pouch. Gently poke the corners and seams with a blunt tip to square. You're going to want to turn those. You poke those corners both turns. Don't wait until the last turn. So yeah, I didn't. How did I not even know? I didn't even know. I just would have just sent them without a thought. But Patrick and I did. We were thinking about it, like, what should we do? So we have 2 different corner turners here at the store.
You should
And
have sent you a
I
text.
love them both, and I feel like you should have them both. So this is the Clover one, and this is the OESD one. My recommendation, if you're using the OESD one, is never use the little end because I've used it, and every time I do, I'm too aggressive. And well, if you're not aggressive, don't worry about it. But I always poke through. But we're gonna poke through, or we're not gonna poke through. We're gonna turn and poke. I poke both turns because sometimes it's too hard if you just wait.
I don't know how you type, but you should have received a text or an email.
Did I?
Then
I don't know if I saw anything.
it's just sad, but you have to worry about this.
It really is. Right. And it's American thing. Like when I go to Korea, like everyone there thinks, well, it's kind of true. We're we will get into that conversation. I know it could be a hot topic. Okay. So now we're going to go ahead and we're going to turn it again. So it says turn the project through the opening in the lining, gently poke the corners and seams with a blunt tip. I do like this because I will take it and like drag it along the seam. So I love them both. And then it says for a finished look, fold the edge. For me, a lot of times with seams like this, I use 1/4 inch seam a seam. You can buy 1/4 inch seam a seam, or you can buy 1/2 inch seam a seam. Or the other thing I do is I'll take my sewing machine and I'll sew like literally like right on that edge. You don't want to sew any more than on that edge because it'll make your bag, smaller. But I'm going to take this, I'm going to press that. And then I did bring 1/4 inch seam a seam with me. But you do want to kind of seal that up. You don't want something to get lost in there. But let's go ahead and just fold it. And I'll show you the seam a seam. If you don't have it, it's a good thing to have in your stash. Remember, don't use steam right now because you don't want that stabilizer to just kind of scrunch up. So there's 1/2 inch and there's 1/4 inch. And it comes with 2 rolls on it. I mean, I've had this forever now. And I usually leave one of those with the edge hanging out, but I can't see it. So I'm going to just pull it out. This is a lot. And you just want to kind of do it the length of the hole. You're going to leave the paper on, although mine is trying to separate. You need that paper to stay on there so you can press on it. Just tuck it in here, right near the edge. You want to be close to the edge. And we're just gonna press it down with the paper on. And if the paper doesn't come away easily, that means usually you haven't pressed it long enough. So just give it a good little press.
We don't have double-sided fusible back. do we?
No, we don't. Peel this away. And you're gonna see it's gonna be kind of gummy in there. It's like sticky. And then you can just go ahead and lay this down on the edge. I'm going through layers, right? We're going through layers. So you definitely want to just make sure it gets nice and hot so it sticks. And this is a permanent, it's called a permanent bond, bonds permanently when ironed. So this is kind of my go-to, or like I said, the other thing I'll do is I will sew right like a 1/16 of an inch away from that edge. And you want to press it from the thinner side, not the fatter side, because it might not adhere. And that is how we're going to go ahead and close up that hole. If you want, you can whip stitch it. So you can whip stitch it too. Now it says for a finished look, fold the raw edge in, turn the pouch right side out, gently poke the corners and seams with a blunt tip to square. So let's go ahead and do that. So we're going to turn the pouch and we're going to poke the corners and seams. Grab my, I bounce it, bounce it into that seam or the corner. And bounce that one. And it looks gorgeous. All right. Where are we? Page 8. We need page 9. Where are you, page 9? Here we go. Using a safety pin. Before we do that, if you have your sewing machine and you can do it, I want you to just go ahead and convert to sewing, because we're going to do a casing for the back too. It's just going to make it look better. Right now, you're going to see that there's this adorable casing in the front and it's completely open in the back. So the ribbon just kind of like lays around there. If you sew in that casing line, it's just going to make it look better. And when you cinch it, it'll look better too. And if you want to do this later, if your sewing machine's in the other room, then you can do this later, but I would recommend that you do it. So I have white thread in my top, white thread in my bottom. I'm going to go ahead and set this up for sewing. And you want to do it before you put the ribbon in. Let's take off the foot. Did I bring my handy dandy loop tightener and screwdriver? Oh my goodness. I feel so good in with the sweatshirt that Dana made me that says the struggle is real. That is my daily life. I'm going to use this foot just because it has a low profile. And if you want, you could take off your embroidery arm. You can't really use the free arm anyways. What might help is like just knowing how far away you want to be from here. So let's go ahead and let's set up our guideline markers. And that way you can run it next to your guideline marker. So I'm going to come in here. I was thinking of making a struggle pillow. I'm going to turn on my guideline marker and I am going to set it up for, that is on my 0. So I need to go to left sewing position. So I'm going to close this. Let me just go into my left sewing position because that's where the needle is going to be. My needle in line with that. And I don't feel like my left guideline. I'm going to go into my guidelines and I'm going to move it to the left. So do you see how I'm moving this right now? And I just want to make sure my left, actually, let's move it to my right. I want this left red mark. Do you see this one right here? I want it to be in line with the center of my foot. That happens on your main page. Here's my main page. Here's where it moves the main line position. And I'm going to move it over a little bit more there. Now it's right in line with that. And now I'm going to bump out my right one. I'm just fudging this as I go. I'm putting down the left line on that stitch. I'm going to take the right line and I want it to be on the edge of my fabric, and that's going to give me a guide. Maybe there's easier ways of doing this. We're going to go seam allowance. That's what I want. And now I'm going to bump out my line. I'm not paying attention to this measurement at all. I just want to get the right line. So it's going to be on the edge of my fabric. Ooh, we're at 5/8 inch from before. That's from my demo yesterday. So I'm going to go ahead and bump it in. I use these lines and I just use them however I see fit. That's going to make my sewing project easiest. That way I don't have to pay attention. I don't have to draw a mark on here. Now I'm set up because look, this comes out a little bit higher than my other one, and that should be good. So I'm going to go ahead and sew that down, and then I'll create something for this line to the edge, because I'm just trying to avoid from, I'm trying to avoid marking my fabric because I don't want my, and I could just draw a line. Let me pull my foot over here. Whoop, hang on. I never set this back to close. I never set it back to a center sewing stitch. Okay, now we're in business. Okay, I'm going to keep this like this. In my eye, I'm just keeping it right over here. I could do my directional sewing too, if I wanted. And see how that red line is right in line with my stitch. And now I have my first casing line in the back. I'll do a little back stitch too. And I was just being lazy and not marking. And I'm like, oh, I have the feature in here. Let's just use it. Okay. From here to here is, let's see if that's going to be the same. It's like the same. From my red line here to this, I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. So I'm going to go back into my guidelines and I'm just going to bump that number up. Like, let's do 2. And I'm just looking at my red guideline and making sure it's in line with those casing lines. Oh, I might make it one more click. Okay, there. Do you guys see what I'm doing? I don't even know if you know what I'm doing, but I'm using my guideline markers. Hopefully it makes some kind of sense to you, but you have the feature. Why not use it? You don't have a lot of room. So just keep that in mind and make sure you're not sewing the back down to the front. And if you don't have this feature on your machine, don't worry about it. I'm in my hole. I don't want to do that. Don't worry about it. Just draw the line in. I'm going to do a little back stitch right there. Okay. I have my seam allowance right now, but I'm using it as the spacing in between my, for my casing. That's all I'm doing. Tuck this. Sorry, I'm going to move this to the back a little bit so my hand's not hitting it. So I'm just using it as the distance between my stitches to make my casing line. Because I just didn't want to have to draw my fabric. Although you could just use a friction pen, right? Connect those lines and draw on those and just press them away. So I did have to go a little bit lower because I don't want to be on top of my the seam. or my drawstring hole. Let's see. All right, we're done. Another way you can just use your guideline markers, and I just did that. So you want a little casing in the back. So just sew that in. Let's go ahead and put our drawstring in. So you have a ribbon. You have one long piece of ribbon. You can just go ahead and cut that in half. I thought this was pretty. This came all the way from Korea. I like when I cut my ribbon, I like to cut it at an angle. So like a diagonal. Here's my. So it's just going to look like that. And let's go ahead and add it. So it says here, where's my page? You're going to go ahead and use a safety pin and attach 2 pieces. So we're going to do the safety pin. And then if you have a bodkin, you know, the bodkin is really just easier to do. And I brought mine with me. There's different bodkins, like this one's long enough that you can easily use it to kind of shove this ribbon in here. If you don't have one, we are going to use the safety pin, and it has an end here that you can just take the, you can just feed the ribbon in here, and you push this in and just pull it through. Okay. And there's all different kinds of bodkins. If you don't have that, don't worry about that. Wait a minute. Was I supposed to not use a safety pin, attach 2 pieces of crocheted edge trim together? Okay, no, we're fine. Because let me look at my instructions really. Was that supposed to stay one piece? Ribbon. 2 pieces. 2 3/8 by 16-inch pieces. Okay, just wanted to make sure. Although we are gonna like tie it on the end on one side afterwards. All right. Attach 2 pieces. So the safety pin you might have gotten, and we had some smaller ones later, might have been big. They might be a little bit big to get through the casing. We had some struggles with that. Grabbing my computer so I can see you. And we're going to take this. We're going to go through the casing. And they don't know, they don't have the casing in the on the back yet. So you're just going through the casing in the front. Oh, that was it. It was the head of it was too big to even get through that little hole. We're going to put this through, and then we're going to remove this safety pin. There we go. It's the back part that's hard to get through just because there's folded over fabric. We're going to go ahead and do that and take out your safety pin. Now it says, pull 1 trim end from each side of the pouch. This will create a long end and a short end on each side. So you're going to pull 1 end here and have a short end. So I'm going to pull it long to the right, and we have a short end over here. Now I'm going to take the other piece of ribbon and I'm going to pull it this way. So I have a short end here. Okay. Turn the pouch over so that the back is facing you. Attach the safety pin to the longest piece of the trim on one side. So here's my long trim on this side. I'm going to take the safety pin and I'm going to attach it. And we're going to insert the trim through the small opening in the side seam. So there is a small opening here, right here, that you're just going to tuck it under and into the casing that we just sewed. So you're going to take that, put it through. The hard part is the fabric's folded over here. So it's kind of hard to get it out the other side, and you might have to guide it. I'm poking it through. So right here, I'm in the fold. It's not coming out. I've got to get underneath the fold. So that's when you want to take something and put it through so you can guide it. So we're going to go right here. I'm underneath the fold. And we're just going to follow this through. There we go. So for me, it's easier if I poke something through and just follow. Oops, what happened? I must have been too close to the edge. Let me pull this back. I think I just went right through the edge. I'm going to fold this over and then do it. I was edge greedy, too close to the edge. Okay, but you see what we're doing on the back side. You're going to grab that long end. You're going to tuck it under here, under the edge of the fabric. And then you might need something to guide you through to get you underneath the fold that's right before the hole. Okay, I'm going to take my bodkin or whatever you have. Just going to put it here. There. And this time it's there. I'm going to pull this over. All right, let's use the bodkin now. If you have one, you're just going to go ahead and you're going to grab the long end here and it's going to go in the back. And you can just take your bodkin with a little ball end, depending on which bodkin you have. Just poke it through. Just make sure you wiggle it underneath that fold. Sorry. Here we go. Oh, I'm in the fold. Again, there. I'm through. Then you can take your long end. It's got to be this one. And you can just thread it through this, just like it's a needle, and just pull it through. Piece of cake. So another accessory to have if you don't have it. You're going to line up these ends. So now you have a short end and a long end, and a short end and a long end here. I'm just going to pull them just like that, and just go ahead and put a little knot on either side so it can't get pulled through. And that is our drawstring bag. So cute. I thought this was cuter than the gray. It was a little more color. Sometimes I make that executive decision to give you something different. Any questions? I will post this video. Isn't it so cute? And I think it'd be adorable if you blew it up a little bigger. I always like my ends to be uneven. So I'll do one end a little bit longer and one end a little bit shorter. And I always cut them in a diagonal. That one got a little frayed. And there's your little drawstring bag. You want to go ahead and cut all those little those little threads that remain. And when you're doing the ones in the embroidery, because don't forget to get those. And then it does say to rinse it. So once you're done with this, rinse the project with cool water to remove the stabilizer from the mesh wing, lay flat to dry, and use a pressing cloth to press well. You're going to rinse it really well because you have that stabilizer, you have the dissolve away in there. If you want to remove these little threads, I really love using either my OESD snips or my side hoppers and a good pair of tweezers. You can just use your tweezers to, where are mine? I used to just take my side hoppers and stick it underneath one end and then flip it around. And I can't remember who, somebody was in one of the classes and they said they used their tweezers, and that's made such a huge difference in my life, just grabbing it with the tweezers. So it's nice and taut and then getting under there. Otherwise it's hard to get really, really close. Same thing with these. It has the little hook, which I absolutely love. One cut this way, grab your tweezers and then do your other cut the other way. I wasn't even that close. I go back and forth between which ones do I love better? Which ones are better? And go ahead and just cut all those loose threads and we are done. Well, hope you enjoyed that. Any questions? Are we good? doesn't look like anyone has any questions. Well, then have a great day. I'm going to be stitching hopefully all weekend and getting ready for the big makeover next weekend. And I will send you a copy of this video too. We'll see you later. Bye.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.